Are you concerned about climate change? This is a question asked by people around the world as weather conditions become more extreme and cause more damage to areas inhabited by people, plants, and animals. Is human activity the cause of climate change? If so, what effect will this have on the planet? If the climate is actually changing, is there anything that we can do about it? Scientists believe global warming is caused by human activity, and this leads to climate change. As fossil fuels such as oil, coal, and gas are burned to produce energy, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. These CO2 emissions have a direct impact on air temperature by absorbing and retaining more energy from the sun. This is also known as the greenhouse effect. Scientists have detected a measurable increase in both CO2 emissions and in the average air temperatures around the world over the last 100 years. The relationship between the two is clear, but ignoring the effects of global warming could have devastating consequences. Worldwide, increasing air temperatures have resulted in more precipitation in some areas, while other areas have become drier. The severity of strong storms and high winds has increased. Ice that normally remains intact year-round at the North Pole is melting, creating more open water, which absorbs more heat. Permafrost in Canada and Greenland is also showing signs of melting. All of these events indicate a warming planet. Meanwhile, climate change skeptics argue that a warming planet is not the result of human activity, but due to other natural causes. Some attribute a warming planet to increased solar activity. Others admit that current weather conditions are noticeably different from normal patterns, but that this variability is due entirely to the natural rhythms of the planet. Some critics even go so far as to say that the scientists and the politicians who claim that climate change is a threat simply want to profit from efforts to curb it. Unfortunately, those most resistant to climate change theories live in the industrialized areas of the world that create the most pollution from greenhouse gases. While the science is debated, the prudent thing to do now is to develop alternatives to coal and gas consumption. Not only does this improve air quality, it also becomes a source for new jobs and clean industries that produce solar, wind, and geothermal energy. Additionally, the construction industry has seen a boom in recent years of new, dense housing located closer to places where people work. It has also been shown that corporations and consumers can save money by recycling, by reusing once discarded materials, and by reducing waste. Actions taken to reduce a carbon footprint become a win for all who are involved. Ultimately, the truth of the situation will be revealed. Scientists acknowledge that the Earth's climate naturally changes over long durations of time. However, careful measurements of air and soil samples show that human activity has greatly accelerated climatic changes in a short amount of time. The planet is now covered with cities, highways, machines, and human beings whose activities are directly impacting the environment. To say that the presence of nearly 7 billion people does not have an impact on the Earth's ecosystem is to live in denial of the facts and the evidence that prove the Earth's climate is indeed changing.
Climate change has been in the news for years. But what is it? And how will it affect us? To understand climate change, you first need to know about the greenhouse effect. The Earth gets heat from the sun. In the atmosphere, greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide trap this heat and keep it from escaping back to outer space. Trapping some heat in the atmosphere is a good thing because it keeps the planet warm enough for us to live. But there's a problem. People all over the world are adding extra carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. That's because today we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas to do many of our everyday activities, like driving our cars, using our computers, and heating our homes. All of this extra carbon dioxide is trapping more heat in the atmosphere, making the Earth warmer and causing other climate changes too. The signs of climate change are all around us. Temperatures are getting warmer, giant ice sheets are melting, and the oceans are rising. In many places, flowers are blooming earlier, snow is melting sooner, and birds aren't flying as far south for the winter. So why does this matter? Well, if the planet keeps getting warmer, we can expect more powerful storms and more flooding, droughts, and heat waves. And these changes could cause additional problems, like the spread of certain diseases, more wildfires, and food and water shortages. Climate change could put entire ecosystems, like coral reefs, in danger, and many plants and animals could become extinct. The good news is that we can take action. We can put less carbon dioxide into the atmosphere if we generate electricity from clean sources, like solar and wind power, instead of burning coal, oil, or gas. We can also drive less, use public transportation, and choose cars that go further using less gas. And you can do your part. Reduce your energy use by turning off the lights, the computer, and the TV when you're not using them, and walk or ride your bike to work or school. By making smart choices and working together, we can make a difference. Check out the rest of this website to learn more about the causes and effects of climate change, as well as the practical solutions that can help protect our planet's future.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
Listen to the recording and complete the following sentences with no more than 3 words and/or a number.
So the question is, how do we stop this? Instead of burning fossil fuels, we need to convert to renewable energy such as solar and wind power, which emit zero carbon emissions when operating. Energy from the sun and the wind are infinite. Unlike fossil fuels, we will never run out of them. More solar energy falls on the Earth in 1 hour than all the energy that our civilizations consume in 1 year. Civil engineers from the Solutions Project calculated that we could power most of the world with only renewable energy if we just actually decided to do it. If we cut back on deforestation, not only does that reduce the amount of fossil fuels burned, but there will be more plants and forests actively absorbing carbon dioxide. If we use more reusable and renewable resources, this will reduce the amount of energy needed to create new products. This will also reduce the massive amount of landfill dumping that we do. That all sounds like great, efficient, and healthy ideas, but how can I help personally right now? You can drive an electric or fuel-efficient car. Replacing your regular car with a Toyota Prius, the average person can prevent the emission of about 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, we all can't afford to just buy new and different cars. So to help, you can walk or bike places, take public transportation, or if anything, ease off the accelerator and make your car as efficient as possible. Use energy-efficient light bulbs. LED light bulbs use only a fraction of the power of incandescent light bulbs. Air dry your clothes instead of using power-guzzling machines like dryers. Turn off electronics or lights when you're not using them. Eat less meat or no meat at all. By replacing an omnivorous diet with a vegan diet, the average person can prevent the emission of about 1.5 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And of course, spread your knowledge and concerns of climate change. Remember, climate change is very real and is drastically affecting planet Earth, our home. And although we are the problem, we can also be the solution.
Listen to the short talk and answer the following questions with
So
no
the
more
Earth
than
is
3
getting
words
hotter.
and a number.
What can we do to solve this problem? We can reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that we put into the atmosphere. There are many things we can do to help. Here are a couple. We should use energy-saving light bulbs. And we can drive more efficient cars. So burning fossil fuels leads to global warming. But what are the negative effects of higher temperatures, and what should we do to help the environment? The ice caps are melting. As a result, sea levels are rising. We should use renewable energy. Deserts are growing. We should plant more trees. This chart shows the cause and effect of global warming. Burning fossil fuels releases gases into the atmosphere. These gases then get trapped in the atmosphere. This layer then traps heat. As a result, the Earth gets hotter. This causes the ice caps to melt. So sea levels begin to rise. What other environmental problems are there? Oceans are polluted. We should save water in the home. Air pollution causes health problems. We should use public transport. Wildlife is losing its habitat. We should protect the rainforests. Landfills emit greenhouse gases. We should reduce, reuse, and recycle. The 3 R's. These are probably the greatest things we can do to help protect the environment. Reduce. It would be better for the environment if we reduced the amount of things we buy and use. It would also save us money. Reuse. We should reuse things when we can. Don't use disposable shopping bags. Instead, take a reusable bag. Recycle. Help the environment by recycling your waste. We can recycle paper, plastic, metal, and glass.
To stop global temperatures rising by more than 2 degrees, greenhouse gas emissions need to fall by 2.5% every year until they reach zero. In the UK, that means cutting our emissions by 12 million tonnes in the first year. So, what can we do? If every person in the UK planted a tree, we'd each cut carbon dioxide emissions by 2 kilograms per year. Added together, that's 128,000 tonnes of CO2. You can make a bigger difference by recycling. Every household in the UK which recycles saves 91 kilograms of carbon dioxide. If every household recycled, we'd save 2.4 million tonnes. Switching to energy-saving light bulbs saves 120 kilograms per household. That's 3.2 million tonnes of CO2 if every home in the UK followed suit. We can also help cut the energy used in the treatment of wasted water. If we all turned off the tap when brushing our teeth, we'd cut 7.9 million tonnes from the UK's emissions. None of those examples would require a huge change in lifestyle, but if we all did all of them, we'd save 13.6 million tonnes of CO2, and we'd beat our target of reducing emissions by 2.5% in the first year. Beyond that, things get a little more drastic. Giving up your car would make a huge difference. The average motorist creates 2 tonnes of CO2 per year, and there are 35 million cars on the road. If we all gave up our cars, that's 70 million tonnes. If you don't fancy that, what about giving up meat? If you went veggie, you'd save 1,241 kilograms of CO2 per year. If the whole country did it, we'd save 79 million tonnes of CO2, more than 16% of our total carbon emissions. Too drastic? Well, even giving up beef would make a big impact. Producing beef creates 5 times more greenhouse gas emissions than any other meat. So, could you give up that steak to help save the planet?